Hey everyone, I'm Armor Gaming, welcome back to my channel, and welcome to a monster analysis on the upcoming Legends Pass monster, the Golden Legends Pass monster. So in order to get this monster, you will have to purchase the Golden Legends Pass for the month of June 2020, just to get some context in case you guys are watching this video in the future. So, the new monster is named Ondana, or I guess Ondana, however you want to say it, Ondana, in the Golden Legends Pass. Let's see what this monster has to offer. When Queen Thalassa returned to her throne, she put her daughter Thetis and her friends under strict surveillance to avoid causing a new riot. She knew she couldn't keep them like that forever, but she didn't expect them to escape either. So when Thetis disappeared along with her squad, Thalassa realized she couldn't underestimate her daughter, and instead of abandoning the throne of the Water Realms to go on a search journey herself, she recruited a very special monster on the job, Ondana. Thalassa had met Ondana in one of her adventures with the Warmasters. When Babari explained the use of Mythic Amber to the group, Thalassa had told him about the fear that she wasn't able to fully control what went on within her immense realm, so when Babari gave her a piece of amber, Ondana was born out of thin air. Ever since she remained Queen Thalassa's faithful servant. When Thalassa needed her to go, Ondana went, and so if there was someone who couldn't find the Queen's rogue daughter and her friends, that was Ondana. And so here we have this brand new monster, Water Mythic monster, and I'm excited for this analysis given the Monster Legends lore, given that this monster has a relationship to Warmaster Thalassa. I think this is going to be good. I think this monster might be frightening. Now, just to answer a question I think I'm going to get ahead of time, is this monster worth it? Regardless of whether or not this monster is worth it by the end of the analysis, in my personal opinion, the Golden Legends Pass still offers the best value in the game. So I always recommend the Golden Legends Pass because at the end of it, you get a rank 3 monster, you get an unranked monster, you get maze collector tickets, which will help you get 2 maze monsters throughout the duration of the month, and you can even save them for the next month if you don't want the future Legends Pass. You get 300 gems, you get a bunch of Elite Souls, a bunch of Nemesis Souls. It is always a good offer. But with that being said, let's see what this monster says. Ondana is a water support monster with stamina drains and positive effect removal. Already that is frightening. Positive effect removals. So we've seen that with Froma more than anyone. Tiny also has positive effect removals, but on a water support monster, let's see. She can also gain an extra chair and disable the enemy's traits. I'm getting some Thalassa vibes right now. Trait disable extra turn. Apply drown to all enemies. Ondana has an evolving trait. At rank 0, she's immune to freeze. At rank 1, she has status caster super attuned upon all her allies. And at rank 3, she doubles the maximum stamina of all of her allies. Look at that! Thalassa vibes. Okay, this is interesting. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I believe this is the very first monster to have double area status caster. So her rank 1 status caster is a super attuned, which in my personal opinion isn't that good. Basically what super attuned does is that you recover stamina if you're attacked by a weak element. For example, if you're a water monster and you get attacked by a water attack, you're going to recover a lot of stamina because you're super attuned. I'm not entirely sure what the percentage is, but to give an example, if this monster is on your team and you're fighting Abysmas, and Abysmas does a water-based attack against you, you would recover stamina. So the cool thing about this actually, because it's an area status caster, if you have a light monster, let's say you have Moonhaze and the enemy has Unspeakable and your Moonhaze gets attacked by a light attack from Unspeakable, he'll recover some stamina. And stamina is like a necessity in the game because if you don't have stamina, you can't do attacks for the most part. And you also get double your maximum stamina. So this monster is really focusing on making sure your team has stamina. I wonder what happens if you have this monster and Thalassa. Is that 4 times the stamina? I would assume so. So yeah, double the maximum stamina. I think that's super important because nowadays there are relics in the game that can pretty much drain all of your stamina. I don't know how many times I will attack with my Armor Claw and then Pestilence Trap activates and it's maxed out. Or even Nabuline's Trap, even worse, and already my Wormlet and my Ragnarök, they have to waste a turn recharging. So just adding this monster on your team, having that maximum stamina increase at the start of the battle, you're good to go. So I fear that this monster might be actually quite menacing. And yeah, we're gonna see. So, and I guess the freeze immunity, I should comment on that. I think having some sort of immunity is always useful. Whether it's stun, whether it's possession, whether it's freeze, having a permanent immunity is super helpful. Especially moving forward, I imagine we're going to be seeing more mythic monsters that can do denial. Or even if they're like attackers, I imagine they're going to have like a single denial. I mean, we kind of see it with Unspeakable, who's a tank, but has a stun skill. With that being said, let's talk stats. This monster has a life stat of 50,669. That is one of the weakest life stats. This monster is definitely very squishy. It's actually tied with Nor, the upcoming race monster, and Ra, Raw actually, it's funny, Raw actually has a life stat of 50,668, so just barely by 1 HP, has a higher life stat than Raw, and Nightingale is still the weakest monster, or the squishiest monster with 48,256, but yeah, this is by far one of the lowest lives in the game. In terms of power, 54, 56, this is honestly right around the middle, tied with Blaz, a support metal mythic monster, and in terms of speed stat, this is actually the third fastest speed stat, 4873. Currently, the fastest monster in the game is Blaz with his 4895 speed. After that, we have Miseris, Froma, and Morgs with 4875, and now we have Ondana. So I will say that this monster, from what I can tell right now, because I'm also looking at relics, staff, and amulets, Froma has a skill that can remove positive effects, and then being able to hold the staff relic, you have access to either Cane of Atlantis, which once again means you don't need to worry about stamina, which once again basically means you don't need to worry about stamina because the Cane of Atlantis can just activate and give stamina back to your teammates. Or if you have Pump Seed Staff, if it's fully maxed out, after you damage an enemy monster with a skill, you can remove 180 points of stamina. So you can also use this monster to stamina drain. So that's pretty useful. And in terms of the amulets, well, I mean, that's mostly for like life regen. But yeah, you have access to an amulet and a staff. I think if this monster would have held an essence, would have been way more menacing because then you have to worry about resurrection. If this monster could have held a mask, it would have also been more menacing. But I think we're good with the staff and amulet for now. This monster is a sea book, a female book, and an adventure book. Alright, let's get on to the skills, because I think this is where we're going to find out whether this monster is truly menacing or not that bad. So tier 1, Stonefish Hardened, removes all negative effects from one ally, applies immunity control to one ally. Honestly, this is really good in the context of if you're going up against an Abysmus, and Abysmus does AoE freeze, you know you can't be frozen. So if your attacker mythic monster is frozen, you know that you can remove the negative effect and immunity to control. So now that your mythic monster no longer needs to worry about being frozen or any hit with any control, but more importantly, because you remove the negative effect, your mythic monster is free to attack. So anytime a monster has a permanent immunity and any skill that can remove negative effects, you can always be in an advantage. You ruin yourself to go second in the turn order, you let the enemy deny monster go and deny your team, and because you have that permanent immunity, you just remove the negative effect from the next monster in turn order, which will be your attacker, and then your attacker can deal damage. So that's a huge plus. Although it does have a hefty 49 stamina cost, but again, at rank 3 you have that area double stamina. Tier 1, Tears in the Sea, applies stamina regen to all allies, gives 30% of stamina. Once again, this monster is really focusing on making sure your team always has stamina. Gives your team stamina regen and an immediate 30% stamina recovery. Moving on to tier 2, we have Marina Bite. Deals moderate special damage to an enemy. Trait disable. Oh wow, we have a trait disable. And applies stamina leak. So it's pretty straightforward. We have a trait disable skill. That's awesome. We've seen this also with Tiny. It's funny, I'm getting a lot of Tiny vibes with this monster as well. So, I mean, and again, Thalassa vibes with that trait disable. So having access to trait disable is super useful, especially right now where we're in an era of mythic monsters and like top tier legendary monsters. So being able to trait disable that enemy dodge area monster, that Wormlad, right? That's super useful. That Grakon, get rid of their dodge area. That's super useful. Or even against the mythic monsters that have taunts. If you can trait disable them and then attack whoever you want, that's awesome. So great skill. And on top of that, also does a stamina leak. Selfish Splatter removes positive effects from an enemy, deals low water damage, and 1 extra turn. Oh my gosh. Selfish Splatter has so much uses right now. So, for example, let's say you're facing a Wormlad, and then a Mythic Attacker, and then a Dunraw, and Dunraw starts the game off with Megataunt. You are literally able to do Selfish Splatter, get rid of the Megataunt on Dunraw, and then you can do your Bite skill to trait disable Wormlad, and now you're free to blast everyone with an AoE skill. That's great. Or if you're fighting those Elvira bases, those pesky Elvira bases, hey, remove positive effects, and then you can attack whoever you want. Or if you're fighting a Miseris, and Miseris just resurrected a monster with evasion, hey, Selfish Splatter, bye-bye evasion, now you're free to attack. I mean, this is fantastic. This is fantastic. That's a great skill. Thalassa vibes. Fresh Drowning removes positive effects from all enemies. Yeah, so just like Tiny, right? Positive effect removal. I think Froma can do it too. And this skill, combined with Pump Seed Staff, I mean, you're good to go, right? If you're battling one of those like Elvira bases with legendary monsters, you have a maxed out Pump Seed Staff, that's draining all of their stamina, because it's 180 stamina drain if it's maxed out. So bye-bye evasion, and everyone is stamina drained. And then deals low water damage, that's whatever really. And it applies drowned. But really it's just that team positive effect removal. Wow, so you don't have a team cleansing skill, right? I don't think we saw that. You have a single cleansing skill, But yeah, a positive effect removal. Water Swirl deals low special damage to all enemies, removes 50% of stamina from all enemies, gives 50% of stamina to your allies. Once again, you never have to worry about stamina with this monster. The biggest thing this monster is susceptible to is cooldown activation. As you can see from the cooldowns, if you get hit with CDA, you are in trouble. You are in huge trouble. But if you don't have to worry about that, if you can guarantee you're faster, I mean, a 50% stamina drain is super nice, especially you have Drown, which is also removing stamina from the monsters as they go. Gives 50% of stamina to our allies. So with this monster, you never have to worry about stamina, which is, I think, is the best part. I think that's what makes this monster actually quite menacing. If you get this monster in your team, I'm telling you, stamina drain is one of the worst things that can happen to you. It denies you, and it's the relics. It's not even the monsters a lot of the time. So just starting the game off with area double stamina, I can definitely see this monster being in meta teams because it helps them get a turn, and it helps them not have to worry about stamina. So let me see, what am I thinking right now? I'm thinking there's a lot of ways to ruin this monster. You can do 3 speed, you can do team speed. You can do a combination of speed or team speed. This monster shouldn't be running strength. She's not an attacker. If you look at the skill set, you put this monster in whenever there's a monster that relies on freeze, you don't have to get frozen. You put this monster in the turn order whenever you need to remove a positive effect. You know, I mentioned Dunraw, I mentioned there's evasion, I mentioned Mizra's Resurrections. With Selfish Splatter, you have this monster, get rid of that positive effect, you trade disable who you need to, and now the whole enemy team is susceptible. You can have this monster go last in the turn order and do that 50% stamina drain all their stamina, recover stamina on your teammates. So definitely team speed. If you have other monsters to go first and do their thing, you give team speed on this monster and you're essentially good to go. Also, because this monster does have the 3rd fastest speed of all the other mythic monsters, a lot of the times if you're running team speed on this monster and team speed on your attacker mythic monster, you're probably going to be going before your attacker mythic monster, which is useful in case, let's say you got hit with like Ilian did his blind skill, day skill, sunburn skill, whatever Ilian can do, and your accuracy is super reduced. Because Ondana goes before your attacker mythic, you know you can do Stonefish Harden to remove all the accuracy reduction, and then you're able to attack. Or maybe Guy Daigo did his total damage reduction or whatever. So in terms of support, this is by far one of the better support mythics we've seen. You have access to so much in your arsenal, and my favorite thing is still that stamina. All of that stamina, not having to worry about stamina is a huge advantage, I would say. But yeah, going back to skills, I would say Water Swirl for sure. That 50% stamina drain is nice. First Drowning, you have to do the positive effect removal on all the enemies for sure. Selfish Splatter, you need Selfish Splatter is probably this monster's best skill. That positive effect removal, immediate extra turn, which allows it to cycle into something else. You need to run Bite for that trade disable, super useful. Stonefish Harden, I'd say I named 5 skills. Stonefish Harden is a skill you're also going to be running. If you need to make room for Stonefish Harden, I would say you might be able to get away with Water Swirl. To be completely honest, because we have mythic monsters and they're ranked up, you might not need this monster to 50% stamina drain. Instead, you just want to guarantee your attacker to attack without having any negative ailments. You just want to make sure you have stamina, so you might not need that stamina drain from the enemy, especially when the enemy could just have a charging banner and recover stamina, kind of lance himself and recover stamina. So I think that other skill set I mentioned is fine. And yeah, you can really run this monster to go first in the turn order or last in the turn order with team speed, or really like secondary in the turn order. Because I can also see this monster with 3 speed, and like I said, an Elvira base, let's say Elvira mythic based, well then you're good to go. Selfish Splatter, get rid of the evasion on whoever you need to, trade disable that monster you just got rid of their positive effects, and now your allies are going to be able to do whatever. Or honestly, even if you put 3 speed and you have this monster go immediately first in the turn order, it doesn't matter if you're facing Vandecken, Cat UFO, whatever. Because you can start the game off with Stonefish Harden on your attacker mythic monster. Maybe your attacker mythic monster is running 3 level 10 strength runes, and what you'd essentially be able to do is Selfish Splatter, get rid of evasion on one enemy monster if they have evasion. Stonefish Harden your attacker that has 3 strength runes. The enemy monster denies you. Your Ondana gets denied. Maybe your other monster gets denied, but your attacker is not getting denied. They can't get hit with control. Then your attacker just blasts with the AoE. So you might there's a lot of ways to ruin this monster. Definitely one of the more menacing monsters. Even though she's supportive and she might, like, when I first saw this, I'm like, or as I was making the video, I'm like, do I like her? Do I not like her? But now all these thoughts are going through my head. I'm like, oh my gosh, she's actually very powerful. Definitely takes after Thalassa. But those are my thoughts on this monster. Now I want to hear from all of you guys. What do you guys think about this monster? How do you think she's going to compete compared to the other mythic monsters? Do you think we're going to be seeing her a lot or not really? Any thoughts in the comments below? I really want to hear you guys' comments, especially because I know one of the other questions is, should we get this monster? Should we buy the Legends Pass just for this monster? So if you guys have any insight on that, please let me know in the comments below. Thank you very much, and remember to subscribe.